Hi, everyone. We're back again today, continuing our work with multiplication. But today we're going to begin looking at multiplying two-digit numbers together. And in doing that, I'd like to begin by introducing you to a new vocabulary word that will help you think about multiplication in many different ways. The vocabulary that we're going to look at is down here, and it's the associative property of multiplication. That sounds very sophisticated, but what I wanted to tell you is when we work with the associative property, what that means is we could take three or more factors and rearrange them any way and still get the same amount. So let's take a look at some of the examples I have for us on this slide. Let's say that your teacher asks you to cover your table that you're working at, and your table measures 12 feet by 15 feet. And so one group here works and they cover their table with this arrangement, and another group is working with that same measurement and they cover it with this arrangement. And you can see those number sentences have a lot of parentheses and a lot of numbers. But as long as they have at least three factors, you can see they can be arranged in many different ways. Let's take a closer look at how this table arranged the paper to cover their table. This group here decided they were going to take a big blue piece of paper and cover an area that's 10 feet by 15 feet. And then they were going to take a skinnier yellow piece of paper and cover that area by 2 feet and 15 feet long. So there we have that arrangement. This group over here decided that when they were going to cover their table, they were going to use some different colors. So they used the blue and covered this 10 by 10. And then the leftover to make 15 right here, a little piece 10 by 5. And then they used that yellow piece on the bottom, but they only went 10 feet long, so they went 2 by 10. And then this little tiny green piece of paper was 2 feet by 5 feet. And when they added that all together, they covered the same area. So you can see that when we talk about the associative property, it means you take an arrangement that might be covering an area and you might change it around a bit to come up with the same answer. And that's going to help us a little bit today as we move into our lesson. Let's take a look at this example. This example here talks about covering a larger area that measures 12 feet by 15 feet. And you can see you could easily multiply 15 by 12. There's our two-digit numbers. But we haven't done that yet. And that looks a little bit difficult. There's a strategy called doubling and halving, which, as you remember, you've used before. By rearranging the numbers, you're able to still come up with the same product. So if we take a look here at these factors, and we notice that we could have 12, and remember, 12 is the number we could have or cut in half because it is the even number. And I always like putting that even number on this side as the width because it makes it easier to cut in half. So if we were to cut, well, maybe with a straighter line, but if we were to cut this rectangle into two equal pieces, you can see now instead of 12 by 15, we take this top part here and put it here, and this bottom part here. We now have a rectangle that is 6 inches high, and we have 15 here and 15 here, and together we know 15 plus 15 makes 30. So our new arrangement now is 6 times 30. And you see that right down here. So what we've just done is we took our double digit algorithm here with two-digit numbers, and we looked at that and we halved this side, which then doubled the length. And when I look at this, that's a lot easier to multiply than this. Same area, just a different arrangement. Let's take a look at a sample from your work today. Here we have the multiplication fact 13 times 16, again, two-digit numbers. But if we use the halving and double strategy, we're going to realize that it's much easier to solve that problem. So as I mentioned, I like putting the even number here, and then whatever number, usually it's an odd number when we're using this strategy. So if we do that, I can cut this in half, and half of 16 is 8. And when I line these two up next to each other, I have 13 plus 13, and I have to double that. So this length becomes 26. Now I notice I could even have and double this again. I know I could have 8 if I were to cut this, in half. Now I have 4 for my height. And then you can see I have to put double 26, because remember this was 26 here. And then this right here was 26. And when I double 26, that's a 6. When I double 26, I get 52. So now I have 52 times 4. And that's a little bit easier to do than 13 times 16. I could even have and double that again if I wanted to. So in looking at your work today, you can see that you have 13 by 16. If you have 16, you get 8. If you double 13, you get 26. That would work. But we could even narrow it down more and make this 4 by cutting that in half and doubling this and getting 52. And then I could go ahead and work with this problem and see that 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times 5 is 20. So my answer to 13 times 16 is 208. But what I did is I just rearranged those factors so that they were easier to multiply for me, and I still came up with the same product. I hope this example helps you as you work through today's assignment. You're going to be doing the double and halving strategy to help you multiply two-digit numbers. All right, off you go. Have fun.